Sure. I'll talk it out.
Yeah, let's just have a conversation.
Track 3.
Better not be fucking Dave Matthews Band.
Okay. Those of you who don't want to be a part of this can leave now.
Derek, please listen to me.
But if you choose to stay, which it seems like you guys are choosing,
Derek, please.
you understand and agree to the following terms and conditions.
Derek!
1.
Derek, this is the virus
You
talking.
hereby waive your right
Derek, please.
to your own personal bodily integrity.
This is not you.
2.
I'm a life-
Per the state versus Neville Reed, my colleague and I will not be held criminally liable for any felony or misdemeanor that you may be a victim of, including, but not limited to, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, destruction of property, mayhem, and first-degree murder. And 3, terms and conditions may change or be updated whenever the fuck I want! Consider yourselves notified.
What up, DJ Anubis?
And DJ Neko.
Here with you on the Metal Talk Radio podcast, doing the top 50 movies of the 21st century, numbers 50 through 41, according to this guy.
Or because I'm
Yeah, it gets confusing with the cameras. So I don't know. There's an article on HollywoodReporter.com that came out probably a week or so ago. And they had a selection of the top 50 movies of the 21st century, which only applies to any movie from 2001 until now. Now, granted, we're in 2023, but they stopped at 2021, I think. They didn't even go into 2022. So, however, I was reading a little bit through their article. I saw some of their movies, and I was like, what is this? Like, I don't understand this. Like, there was a good handful of movies I said, okay, you kind of got me here. I don't mind. But then there's a lot of stuff on there. I'm like, what are you doing? Now, granted, everything is subjective with movies, entertainment, music, whatever. So as I'm reading through the article, they did mention, they said, picking the movies we love the most while being mindful of variety and inclusivity. So it came back to what I was telling you.
mm-hmm.
Their choices were more about diversity and inclusivity. And what they've done is they've already built these parameters for what they're going to use. So they're not, in my opinion, going with what is considered best, in my opinion.
So what were your parameters?
Nothing.
Just entertainment value,
entertainment. Like what I consider best movies in terms of like how you feel about them, the rewatchability that we always talk about. I think if I was going to retitle their article, I retitled it as the top 50 most important films of the 21st century. That's how I would view that, because they do make some points about what they want to do and try to achieve with that list. But I don't think just because you have a movie that has a certain amount of black people or a certain amount of this person or this culture or this particular topic that means it's the best. Now, you may get enjoyment out of it because it is subjective. However, I feel like they've already kind of cornered themselves into a certain bubble that they can't go out of, because then they'll get yelled at or whatever. I'm not here to yell at them. It was their list. That's why I felt like I should do my own list. And that's why we're going forward with that.
Okay.
So Neko is here as
adjusting my boobs. How do you think they look? Just let me know.
They're fitting in there pretty good.
In the comments.
Snug like a rug. So Neko's going to be here too. She has no idea what my top 50 are.
He didn't give me any advance warning, and I said, what if I've never seen these, or what if I hate them? And he's like, just, it's all open. You can say whatever you want. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to kind of keep her in the dark because one, when I first mentioned I was going to do this with her, she started to groan. She's like, "Oh no." Now, going through this entire list, when we're done with it, not today, but obviously throughout the different episodes that we're going to do, she's going to be happy. She's going to be sad. She's going to want to kick me in the balls. But at the same time, I think we'll have a lot of fun with the list because really, when I went through it, when you're thinking of 2001 and now, it's like, man, because we love a lot of older school movies. That is kind of tough, but I actually did find quite a few things. There were things I had to leave off. If I was doing a top 200, that'd probably be a little easier, but I'm not doing all that. So we are going to start with number 50.
All right, tell me.
And her and I talked about this film the other day.
Oh no.
At number 50, we have The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. And
I think I don't think I even finished watching it.
this film is from 2013, directed by Helen Catet and Bruno Frazzani. Cast included Klaus Tang, Ursula Bedina, and Joe Kroner, excuse me. The plot is basically a man returns home from a trip to find his wife missing. So upon investigating people in his own building, uncovers seduction, deceit, and murder. Now, what makes this film stand out from a lot of the other movies that we see today, especially in the later years, so for those of you that are more familiar with the Gallo films from the 70s and whatnot like that, this is a modern Gallo film. So it's a modern murder mystery. And there's a lot of cool psychedelic trips, visuals. It is subtitled. To my knowledge, it doesn't come with dub, unfortunately, but
It's funny too because you're not a big fan of subtitles at all.
I'm not. I mean, I watch millions of movies with subtitles, so I won't do it. But as I explained to another guy who was kind of saying the same thing, he's like, "Well, why don't you like subtitles?" I'm like, sometimes, depending on the film, it's hard to concentrate on what's going on visually, where instead of it, you have to read. So I remember seeing Brotherhood.
And you read pretty
Slow. Yeah. So
Like-
I like to just make sure I understand what's going on. Now this film, and I've done a review on this before, but it was on the podcast, the audio version. And the good thing about this film is there's not a lot of dialogue. Like there are talking throughout it, but it's not as much. It's more just experiencing the atmosphere, the visuals and everything that's going on. You and I, we just did that review on After Blue, which that has a bit more dialogue, but it's again more visual. So,
terrible movie.
but
Is there anything I like in this, or
yes, actually there will be in the top 10, certainly. In fact, you might be like, "Wait, what? This is too low, man. What's up with you? What's up with you?" But yeah, I really like the visuals in this film. It's got a lot of cool scenery. I like what they're doing with it. It's just really cool. Some of this I was trying to, it reminded me a little bit of, if you see this scene here, and then if you see the other one, it started to remind me a little bit of Watchmen a little bit. Like, just like, because you remember the scene here where Malin Ackerman and Dr. Manhattan, he's playing around with her. So it kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of similar, but I don't know if he ripped off Watchmen or not because it came out about a year earlier, a few years earlier.
I love The Watchmen. That's a good movie.
Yeah, that is definitely a good movie. Okay, so now we're going to move to number 49.
Okay.
This is another one that Neko isn't uber crazy about, but she might appreciate this one a little more than the last one.
Okay.
49 is Beyond the Black Rainbow. My boy Panos Cosmatos, excuse me, I hate to butcher his name. He's one of my newest favorites directors right now. He's only done a couple of films. He's done this and Mandy with Nicolas Cage. The cast in this film is Eva Bourne and Michael J. Rogers. Plot is young woman tries to escape a quasi-futuristic commune called Oboria. Much like the last film, there's a lot of great visuals. The soundtrack is amazing.
I'm
I know.
really into visuals.
I am. I love visuals. I love soundtracks. I love trippiness. as I was laughing about the After Blue thing, like I don't do acid anymore, but like these are the kind of films that would be great for that. It's well acted. Some people usually prefer Mandy over this, but I felt Mandy was a little bit more straightforward, where this is kind of more of a mind fuck a little bit. So for someone like yourself who generally likes certain mind fucks like Vanilla Sky or whatever, that's the kind of thing that I go for. I really like this. And
I don't even remember this movie at all.
so she don't have much to say on that one.
That's the sad thing is like,
But it's got some cool little like things like this in there. And then, of course, our lead girl, who also has to be telekinetic in this film, which they kind of vaguely explain how she gets it, but it's really interesting. It's got a little bit of a sense of horror in it. That's why it shows up on stuff like Shudder, and it's on Tubi now, I think.
Tubi.
Tubi!
It's the place
Or
to
not
be.
Tubi.
I love Tubi. Like, you go onto Tubi's interface, and it's almost like its own cable channel. Like, it has, you can pick different things that are kind of streaming live. It lets you, kind of like Shudder. Like, they have things like are now playing.
Oh, yeah. Well, Tubi has started doing their own originals now. So everyone's kind of following in the footsteps of Netflix. Shudder's doing their own originals.
And I think Netflix is in trouble. I don't want to say I think they're fine financially. I think they feel people nipping at their heels. Netflix was really the first to kind of go all in on the streaming. Now we have some other competitors that are offering things. Number one, free or cheaper, because you don't have to subscribe to Shudder to use Shudder. If you have premium Shudder, there's other things that it unlocks. Same thing with Tubi, it's free. I don't know going forward if Tubi is just going to rely on their 7,000 commercials to fund them, or
Well, to be fair to Tubi, their commercial inserts aren't quite as bad as say like Midnight Pulp. But yeah, I think Tubi, they right now they've kind of cornered the market for themselves, which is good, because if they try to go with a subscription, they may lose more customers that way. I think right now they're kind of like the godsend for a lot of people, because if you can't afford like Shudder or Netflix or whatever.
Well, I mean, Shudder is $5. Netflix is $23 now.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was $10 before we can get actual DVDs that would come in. I remember that.
They're shutting down the DVD, and they're not putting everything on streaming.
And some people were pissed off because they still get DVDs in the mail.
Well, I know some people. I mean, we could, because we have the unlimited subscription. We could still, if we wanted to. And one of the things that they always kind of dangled over your head is, if it's not streaming and you desperately want it, you could go and put it in your queue and ask for it.
Right.
So it's like, but now I think they see the cost for shipping, they see the cost for storage. There's Redbox that's still out there and very convenient. There's one right by our CVS, and it's like, okay, I'm leaving CVS. I think I'll rent a DVD. Like, it's really simple. I think, though, all the physical, I don't know how much Redbox has left in it either, because everybody can stream constantly, and it's really hard to keep up, in a sense. So that's why, you've got Netflix still kind of being the juggernaut. But
all right, well, let's move on to number 48.
48.
This one I know Neko does know about. It is Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. Yes. Directed by Rob Zombie, came out in 2005. Casted Sid Haig, Sherry Moon Zombie, Bill Moseley, William Forsythe, Jeffrey Lewis, Ken Foree, Danny Trejo, Diamond Dallas Page, and E.G. Daily, who would also make an appearance in 31.
I liked 31. Isn't that the one that was like in the warehouse and they were going through the
Yeah, like the little midget Hitler and stuff.
Oh god, that was funny. I really did like 31. And This what was this one? Say the plot again. I'm so bad.
No, it's fine. The plot here was basically, this is part of a trilogy. So first was House of a Thousand Corpses.
I think that's the one I really liked, was House of a Thousand Corpses.
Now, see, the funny thing is, throughout my top 50, I do have. I'll speak about one film, but there are some in here that I go with the whole trilogy. Basically, this isn't one of them because I'm not as crazy about Three from Hell, which of course Sid Haig passed too soon to finish the film. So they went with Richard Brake, who actually was really great in 31, but I didn't really care for his character in that movie. And House of a Thousand Corpses, I do enjoy. It's just not as much as this film.
I think I like House of a Thousand Corpses more than this.
Maybe. Some people do. I think the one thing about this film, as opposed to House, is that this seemed like a little bit more of like an action film because there's a lot of gunplay and violence and stuff like
And
that.
I know you're a big Danny Trejo guy.
Right. But Bill Moseley, man, he's like a legend, like a lot of them are. Like Sid Haig has been a legend of horror. Bill Moseley, though, in this particular film, is just knocks it out of the park. His character is just amazing and just so great. So basically, you have this family who, in first film, Corpses, it's sort of like a Chainsaw Massacre type thing. Like they're just a really crazy family. They kill off some teens, and I think one of them was one of your guys from The Office who was in that film.
Rainn Wilson.
Yeah. But this is kind of a continuation where now William Forsythe's a sheriff. He's hunting them down. He kills like the mother Firefly, I think, as they called her. And now it's kind of like hunting down the last three of them. But obviously the sheriff is having a hard time with that, so he hires these two guys as bounty hunters. Good old Trejo and Dominic Dallas Page, a former wrestler. And yeah, it's just really, really good stuff. Well acted, great stuff. I can't say it's enough. Bill Moseley is just amazing. It's because there's a scene where he and Baby, who is Sherry Moon's character, show up to some hotel somewhere, and they end up hijacking or taking prisoner this couple of guys in a band and their wives, and Mosley's just walking the two guys up because he's gonna end up killing them.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, man, yeah, I can still smell your wife's pussy on my gun. Yeah, it's just so funny. Like, and he does it like in a very sarcastic way. Like he's just trying to irk these guys. But it's a great scene, and just he really knocks it out of the park in that film for me. So yeah, that at 48 for me is Devil's Rejects.
I think that's a good spot. I personally, like I said, I like House of a Thousand Corpses and 31 more than this, so I don't know if they've made it further up, but when there's so many movies in 23 years, you may not have the same director over and over.
31 probably would have been a runner-up for me, but like I do really love this film a lot, and it just happens to have an edge over 31 for me. Okay, so number at 47. This is the first one where I have a trilogy, but I'm going to talk about the first film because I know Neko will probably agree with me on its importance of the trilogy. Mm-hmm. And at number 47 is Godzilla 2014. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it appears on my list, and I know people are like, Godzilla, really?
Well, we're big Godzilla fans.
Well, but we hadn't seen an American Godzilla since 1997 or 98.
And that was not the same kind of kaiju. Like, it wasn't terrible. I watched that one 55 million times, but they took it into a different direction. Like, they didn't stay true to Godzilla.
Yeah, Emmerich and then they just experimented with the theory behind Godzilla with the iguana mutating, which I'm fine with. Like, I don't mind people thinking out of the box. Just all in all, the movie itself came across more between like Jurassic Park and King Kong.
Yeah.
Basically how it finished for me. But the cast in this, well, it was directed by Gareth Edwards, and obviously the next two films were directed by other directors. The cast in this is Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, who also ended up playing Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the Marvel series. Bryan Cranston and Ken Watanabe is also in this film, as well as King of the Monsters, which followed. The other cool thing about this film that for Neko and I was, one, when the trailer came out, I must have played it about like a zillion times. Because the ending with Godzilla showing up, I'm like, that's my Godzilla. That is my fucking Godzilla right there.
I think it made such an impact on us because, you know, a lot of the Japanese Godzilla, they still stick to their man in the suit,
Mhm.
which is fine. They did Godzilla right. You know, you see when you're looking at the older ones and it's a man in a suit and the small models, you're seeing this giant imposing monster. And you know, from the 60s and 50s and all, they do the best they can with their graphics and their special effects. But
Mhm.
the part where Godzilla comes and it's Hawaii and he is just emerging from the ocean, it's exactly how it would be because it's this gigantic beast. It was like a tsunami. It was
Yeah, they
insane.
paid attention to the detail
details
to it all. Yeah.
But I remember we're watching the trailer and it was like at the end when you see him glow, he's like do 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 do, and it's like coming up his tail.
Yeah, we got really excited for that.
We like we both reached for each other and grabbed our hands.
Because I remember
and
asking Master Shake when because he had seen it already before we got around to it, and I said, "Well, what about Godzilla's fire breath?" And he's like, "Just wait, dude. Just wait." And I was like, I was like Jim Brewer's like getting all giddy.
I'm talking about it right now. I could watch it.
Yeah, I got goosebumps.
I know.
But yeah, so the
I'm
other thing
surprised
that
you have this low though.
Well, there's a lot of films that are really good, and it's not to say there's not, but the other thing about this film that you said it initially because I was thinking it, but you said it at the time was there's this moment at the beginning of 2014 when they're introducing the credits and everybody, and we have a basic scene where they're showing like Godzilla and the atom bomb and what that really meant back then. It's like this old black and white footage.
That was so cool.
That part of the storyline was very inventive and very cool. I really liked that, and so did she. As much as the complaining about, not enough Godzilla, a little bit too slow, it's funny because by the time you get to King of the Monsters, you have all the monsters you want, but people still complain. But either way, the trilogy between this, and Kong versus Godzilla are perfect for me. And we still have another film coming out, and we have a series. Maybe the fourth film can be added in later, but for now, because of where we are, it's just the 3 films. There is Kong Skull Island, but because it's not a Godzilla film, I just leave it out in the open there.
I think the one thing, I liked King of the Monsters, but I know you liked it a lot more than I did. I felt like in this Godzilla, it was, and I said this before, I actually liked the humans, and the human interactions, and I liked the storylines about the humans. I liked, we're going back to our old place because, that's where Mom died and that's where we saw him and blah, blah, blah. In King of the Monsters, the story I didn't care about as much. I mean, is it just me or I really didn't. But when they got to Godzilla versus Kong, the story got better. Now for King of the monsters made up for it, but I still could have gotten way more monsters.
Well, that's when people ask me why is because if you saw my live stream with Century and those guys, we ranked them all 33 down to 1, and
you had some good views on that. I have not had a chance. I was on the ship.
But King of the Monsters ended up my number 1. And, some people would take issue with that. But I'm like, you have to understand, I love Godzilla. I love all the monsters. And when you see the fluidity of the creatures being made, even if it's CGI,
but
watching
that's
Ghidorah.
Good CGI.
Right. And that's why I love it so much.
I know Godzilla is not real, but realistic Godzilla looking.
Right.
We always make a joke when we're working on the ship that if you hear like a rumble or something, I'm like, oh, here comes Godzilla, or here comes the sea monster, just something funny. I think though I would have liked King of the Monsters if they would not have blown their load on the fucking trailers over and over. There was
Right. Well, it was a
700
cross
trailers.
between that and, of course, people' biggest complaint. I can kind of see it is once the monsters started fighting, it was a very quick back to the humans, and like whereas King versus Godzilla, Kong versus Godzilla,
It was fighting.
they allowed him to fight and show it on, then got back to the characters later.
And I also felt like the stories in Godzilla and Godzilla versus Kong, the human stories meant more for the monster stories, if that makes sense, because like, you know, the one guy is the son of the father and his mom died and they were at that.
So that was the first
That's
one,
what I'm
too.
saying.
Yeah.
That feels like it ties into what's going on with the monsters. In Godzilla vs. Kong, you got this. It was funny, even though they are a carryover from the people in the second one. They did better with the monster interactions and stuff with Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they did, and that's what makes it great. But it's a catch-22 because then the story itself, the human characters, was kind of a mishmash of craziness. But again, we're there for the monsters
Yeah,
anyway.
we got Mechagodzilla, so it's all
Right.
that matters.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it yet, but.
All right, 46. We actually brought this up not too long ago. It is The Watchmen.
That's way too low. Are you fucking high? 46? That would be in like my top 20.
Directed by Zack Snyder. The cast is Jackie Earle Haley, Malin Ackerman, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, if you have seen him before, he's in Supernatural. Patrick Wilson,
And,
who's
The
also
Walking
in
Dead.
right, and Patrick Wilson, who's in the Conjuring films. Plot is in 1985, where former superheroes exist, the murder of a colleague sends active vigilante Rorschach into his own sprawling investigation, uncovering something that could completely change the course of history as we know it. Obviously,
Now I want to watch the
we saw that in IMAX actually, and
Yeah.
for this guy over here, like the blue guy,
He doesn't wear pants.
not always, and like seeing the big blue wang flying around, that's a bit much.
We went to the midnight release.
Yeah, still working Comcast.
You were, and he kept watching the trailer. Like
I still watch it occasionally. I still
like
go.
nonstop. He actually, and this is a long time ago. What year did it come out?
2009.
This is before. I mean, I know a lot of y'all are much younger than us, and not everything was everywhere on the internet in 2009. So he actually burned a copy of the one trailer that he liked the most.
It had Muses Take a Bow.
Yeah,
as a
and
soundtrack.
he would watch it all the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love it.
No, this movie, I remember one night I got drunk and he loved this movie. What number is this?
46.
This is way too low for you. So he loved this movie so much. I actually bought him The Watchmen was.
Yeah, you got me the graphic novel.
It is a graphic novel turned into a movie, but this was like a limited edition hardback, and as you go through the graphic novel, which I feel like they did a really, really, really good job of putting it into a movie, but there's so many like little nuances that, they'll show you like actual write-outs of letters that they talk about in the movie and stuff. But yeah, one night I got drunk and I watched the movie and read the graphic novel at the same time, and I cannot believe it's only number 46 for you. It's too low. You put that above Godzilla as well, which shocks me.
You have to wait till you get to the nitty gritty.
So is it just Godzilla 2014 that you were, or
That was the one I talked about because it was like the one that started the entire MonsterVerse. So for you and I, we didn't even know if anything else was ever going to be made after that. So it was like that was a big deal.
I still watch it regularly.
Yeah.
Like it's a comforting. I don't know who else is comforted by Godzilla, but I've always,
Every Godzilla fan is comforted by Godzilla.
I've said this before, especially on the podcast. I got into Godzilla and Kung Fu because back when I was younger, again, children, we did not have streaming services where everything is available all the time and you could find any movie you want at the drop of a hat. We did have cable, but that was what, 40 channels maybe, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I've always been an insomniac, and Godzilla and Kung Fu after midnight, like
Godzilla and Kung Fu is life.
that like the 11 o'clock news, and then it's Godzilla and Kung Fu and infomercials, and you know, I absolutely love it. I don't know, that's I'm just very surprised that this is higher than Godzilla, but I'm also surprised they both are so low, because
Which makes it intriguing.
it makes it annoying.
But yeah, the great thing about Watchmen is, again, visuals. It's very visually cool.
Mm-hmm.
Great character development. It's a long movie, but it goes by pretty fast. And
That's Zack Snyder for you. He wants to make a 27-hour movie.
well, the thing is, though, like, and some people still like Zack Snyder stuff, but like after 300, I didn't care about any more stuff that he did.
300's great too.
Well, I should say after Watchmen. I think Watchmen came after 300, but I can't remember when 300 came out. But either way, I really don't like anything post Watchmen for Zack Snyder. Storytelling is good. The action is good. Rorschach's a very cool character.
Mhm.
Jackie Earle Haley was amazing in that film, which was really kind of funny because prior to that, the only thing I remember Jackie from was the Bad News Bears as a kid.
When he was
So,
a kid in the
yeah,
70s.
and that's way back. So like when I realized who it was, I was like, wow, where the fuck you been, dude? Of course, he went on to do Freddy Krueger, and I felt bad for him because that is a piece of dump. But you know, anyway,
It's really hard to remake something when the person,
It's
Robert
just-
Englund, is
right.
still alive. Like,
if
it's
you're like
not-
Jason or Michael Myers and you're wearing a mask, it's easier to
And you don't say
replace
anything.
you. But someone as charismatic as Robert Englund is with Freddy Krueger, it's almost impossible.
Don't you remember, like, Freddy's Nightmares? Like,
Mhm.
Freddy hosted his own TV variety. You know, it was just little snippets of scary shows, and I used to watch that all the time. And yes, I get it. The slasher thing got a little overdone, and especially as you get to the early 90s, Freddy is more of a caricature of what he was. The earlier Freddy Krueger movies are a lot, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street are a little bit more scary than the newer ones. However, it's beloved, you know.
Oh wow, they still did a good job with Freddy versus Jason too. I mean, that you would always wonder how they were going to make that work, and they did a pretty good job with that.
We had fun with that. That was one of our we were
First
just
dates,
dating. Yeah, like early dates when Freddy versus Jason.
All right, 46, or excuse me, what am I on? 45.
45.
I know Neko has not seen this. I do own this.
You sure?
Yep. It is The Man from Nowhere, 2010. Directed by Zhang Vian Lee. Cast as Wan Bin, Kim Se-ron, and Kim Tae-hoon. Plot is a quiet pawn shop keeper with a violent past takes on a drug and organ trafficking ring in hope of saving the child who is his only friend. I don't remember when I actually had seen this initially. I just remember it coming on somewhere and I was checking it out. A lot of great action in it. Neko has pointed out her love for martial arts. I do like that as well. This is a little bit more gunplay in this one. But the story is very strong. It's also very emotional, like especially at the end. So when you can put together something like this and still have it like an emotional attachment to it, it sticks out in your mind whenever you're watching a movie.
That I was gonna say that the poster you put up kind of looks a little like John Wick style.
Yeah, it's got that kind of like appeal to it. there's another movie kind of like in the same vibe called Kiss of the Dragon, which has, is also kind of an emotional trip with that film. So it's a little bit along those lines with that. So maybe sometime I'll maybe do a full review with Neko, and we can check it out if she wants to watch it. But
I'm in the movie watching mood now. Like, we're talking movies. Maybe we should watch a movie tonight.
well, we still have some stuff that we need to review. I know there's Knock at the Cabin and Megan yet to watch.
Oh shit! I've been wanting to see Megan. Oh my god, there is not enough hours in the day.
Now, I gotta warn the viewers on the next pick, okay? If Neko leaves, it's not my fault. Okay.
What is it?
At number 44, fucking great movie. These are all great movies. I'm not doing it, but at number 44, Last Night in Soho. Directed by Edgar Wright, who also did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and Baby Driver. Stars Thomasine McKenzie, Annie Taylor-Joy, and Matt
I
Smith.
don't remember hating this though.
No, you fucking loved it.
I really,
So much so we bought it that day that we watched it.
I was gonna say I don't know if Neko leaves. I really liked that movie.
I was waiting for like, oh my god, you had this low, motherfucker. I'm out of here.
I love the movie, but I like Watchmen more than that. Is what
Oh wow.
Yeah.
See, I did not know that.
Mhm.
Did not know that.
I really liked it. I liked the time travel kind of aspect. It was very trippy, very 60s. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, plot is an aspiring fashion designer is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s where she encounters a dazzling wannabe singer. But the glamour is not all it appears to be, and the dreams of the past start to crack and splinter into something darker.
And it's really interesting because it starts because she's in that apartment complex, right? Like where she's living is kind of how she's entering her dreams.
Right.
Because she'll fall asleep and be transported to this other person's body, but it's like 1963.
Right. So basically, Mackenzie's character is the fashion designer, and when she goes into these dream states, she's traveled back, and she's basically, when she looks in the mirror, she looks like Anya Taylor-Joy here, who is lovely and a great actress and is really great in this. All the acting is great in this. I really like it.
I agree. I liked it.
And it does have like a sense of creepiness and thriller in it. Like even at the end, like we were starting to kind of figure it out, but then we're like, not sure. And then it caught us off guard.
And then at one point, because I thought there was something like supernatural involved.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
it makes you guess a lot about it.
I'm like, there's some kind of ghost or something, or somebody's possessing somebody else. And
It's like a satanic cult or something.
yeah, exactly. You know what? Now I need to watch that movie. We've got it. Write these down. Watching The Watchmen.
But the film also has like really good use of colors. The setting is nice wardrobe choices. The outfits were spot on.
Mhm. It was almost her name's Mackenzie.
Thomasine McKenzie, yeah.
So she when she's going into her like little trance-like trips, it almost becomes like her own addiction.
Mhm.
Do you remember she'd be out and she's like, yeah, I gotta go home.
Right.
So she'd go to bed and it was something about the room that she was in was the same room as somebody else's room, and then they kind of were working in each other's bodies, and
Right.
you guys have to see it. It's really, really good. Oh, excuse me.
All right, moving on to number 43. We're getting down to the nitty gritty
Oh
now.
no, already?
Already, but that's about right. Should take about an hour for each of these episodes. So 43, we have 2004's Napoleon Dynamite. Directed
Did I
by...
just like dance for Napoleon's?
Yeah, you want to do the dance that he does for us here?
I actually think he took that from John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever.
Maybe. Directed by Jared Hess. Cast consists of John Heder, Efren Ramirez, and John Grease. Plot is a listless and alienated teenager decides to help his new friend win the class presidency in their small Western high school, while he must deal with his bizarre family life back home. And yeah, so basically, Mr. Napoleon Dynamite is helping his buddy here, Pedro. And but at the same time, Napoleon kind of gets like a girlfriend, or at least a romantic interest. But really, I think what kind of steals the movie is two things. One is his brother, who ends up talking to hot chicks on the web all day.
And what year was this?
2004.
So you have to remember, again, youngsters, this movie is almost 20 years old. So if you watch it, it may not hit as hard. And they're in the Midwest, in the middle of nowhere, farmland. Getting on the internet was a lot harder back then.
Probably dial-up, really.
Yeah, especially
close to it anyway.
Because you and I, we are in a large city, so we've had fiber optic internet since the beginning. Before that it was cable, before that it was DSL. We've always had very, very fast internet. The scenes with his brother, like on the computer, it's just the little things, like how big of I have a chat room at 5:00, so yes, like that's how it was.
What was the girl he finally hit? LaFonda? LaFonda.
Yeah, he ended up marrying LaFonda at the very, 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 very end. I am surprised that this is higher than Godzilla and higher than The Watchmen, but I have a lot of love for this movie because it's one of those movies where you watch it. This is what we did. We watched it the first time, and we're like, "What? Like we said that 100 times."
Well, the thing about this film was a couple things. One, it was an independent film, so it did well at Cannes and stuff like that, but it really gained like this cult following once it was released,
and that's when we saw it once it came out on DVD.
But John Heder basically just kicked off his entire career, this film, and it's just great.
It started off, Napoleon Dynamite, they were in college, and I think they went to, I want to say Brigham Young, but that's probably not right. But he and the director and Pedro, the guy who plays Pedro, they were in college together. And it was a short that they did in college. So they kind of like thought, what if we expanded on this? And they all were from the Midwest, and they understood like the quirkiness of the people. And, you're in a small town, but you all live kind of far away from each other because everything's kind of spread out, but then there's like, one high school for everybody and one. So they put it all together, and he said everything that went into this movie are actual things that happened. So yeah, that's why you kind of feel part of it. Like
it's actually a very underrated film overall. Like it's really funny because you look at the characters and you think they're kind of corny, but there's this like innocence about it, and like we know like Uncle Rico and the things that he does, but the characters are very well written. There's still surprises, like that ending scene, which we just talked about, the dance scene. Like I did not see that coming, and that was like one of the best moments of the film. So it's got all these twists and turns. It's not like a murder mystery or anything, but it's so fun and it's endearing. And it's just, it was really a nice surprise. I did not expect to laugh as hard at that film as I initially did.
The one, the scene where, what year did this come out? Really? 2008?
4.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say 8 sounds a little late. At the end when they're playing tetherball.
Mm-hmm. Great soundtrack. Yeah.
It's just the song and the two of them playing tetherball together, and they're both kind of like nerdy people, but I love that Napoleon just either he doesn't care or he might be a little autistic or something.
Well, he's definitely socially awkward
Mhm.
because even with the tetherball, like he's competitive, so like he doesn't care that she's a girl, so he's like ripping it around the thing, like I win, like it's really funny. Like it's not on purpose because he's just awkward, like and so is she in a way. So,
But I was gonna say that they're very accepting of themselves, and they just seem happy,
mhm.
And I urge anyone to watch this. I cannot believe 20-year-old movie now.
Time's flying.
Right? I really urge anyone to watch it because with everything that we do now, like this, we're on YouTube. It's, just something fun that we like to do. There's nothing going on in this movie where they're pulling out their phones and scrolling or whatever. Everybody is just interacting completely. Whether it's Uncle Rico trying to sell Tupperware, or if it's everybody in this movie has to be themselves 100% of the time. And it's just something about that. Like you said, the soundtrack just matches whatever is going on,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just like instrumental.
Yeah.
I myself love this movie. Like,
It's a great
lot. I might have to take your movies. You give me the list after we're all done, and I'll re-rank them according to where I think they belong.
Sure.
Because this is good, but
Would be higher.
it would be much higher for me. I think of how.
Plus, she'd probably have some other films during this time that you would have that I don't have. So it just depends. Like I know your taste. Some of your taste is the same as mine, but not all of it. So I would expect you to have stuff in there that I don't have. It doesn't have to be action or anything. It could be anything. Like I didn't bring any rom-coms in this. In fact, I don't have very many superhero films. Like The Watchmen is really one of the few that are in
You
there.
don't have the notebook?
No, fuck no. Yeah, you won't get any surprises there, honey. Let me tell you.
The notebook?
Now, the next two films closing out our first episode here are both in totality trilogies, even though they have films after the third, but I'm going with just the trilogies here. So at number 42 is 2004 is when it started. That is The Bourne Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum.
You've always loved these movies. I like them too a lot.
So directed by at least Supremacy. I'll talk about Supremacy because that's the second one. That's like my favorite of the trilogy, but they're all great. It was directed by Paul Greengrass. The cast is Matt Damon, Carl Urban, and Joan Allen. Plot is when Jason Bourne is framed for a CIA operative gone wrong, he is forced to resume his former life as a trained assassin to survive. And basically, that's what it is. Damon's playing this assassin who has amnesia after a botched assassin attempt from the first film. He then hooks up with this chick who is just, I forget what she was doing initially, just trying to get a visa done or something. But she gets tagged along with him in the first film.
He asked her to drive him, and he's like, here, because he finds out.
Gives her like 10 grand.
Yeah, he goes to the bank, and he's like, hey, I have a key to a
yeah, because he's trying. If he gave him he had like a little thing in his body that had like a bank number, and so he's trying to unravel who he is.
That's the fun part.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's great because we talk about John Wick, but this is sort of the series that kind of kicked off the whole action films of the 2000s, really, and it has great writing, great stories. They're not like easy to figure out, like things that are going to happen. The action is good. And the choreography is good. Now, some people complain that the choreography is a little too fast, like it's like shaky camera, or whatever. But I don't know. For me, it works and it's a lot of fun. And like I said, Joan Allen, of course, as Pamela Landy, she's very good in this. And of course, we have an early scene of Carl Urban before he goes on to do everything else. He's the villain in this, trying to track down Bourne.
I don't even recognize him there.
Well, it's funny because he's also in Lord of the Rings, is one of the characters in that, which you just wouldn't even remember. But and of course, Julia Stiles is in this as well. She was at least in I think she is in all three of them at some point. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of great action in this, and they did a fourth one that had I forget his name, the actor, but he did Hawkeye from Marvel. But then they went and, in fact, he just got in that accident and recovered, so good for him on that. But then they did
Jeremy Renner?
yes, thank you. That's why she's here. Too much going on up here. Can't remember too much shit, too much information.
He's actually doing quite well. He posted and did a little video, but
I didn't think it was that as serious as he's made, man. He got ran over.
he was actually he saved his nephew
yeah.
from getting hit, and it was his, like, because he was plowing, but whoever was, I forgot the whole issue, but something like whoever got off of it didn't like put it out of gear, and then it started, and he pushed his nephew out of the way and got run over by it. And
yeah,
but it was his equipment, and so they were just, a snowstorm. It wasn't anything malicious.
But we're glad he's better. But it didn't save this film that he did. It was like a side quest to the initial Bourne stuff. But Matt Damon and Jason Bourne did come back for a fifth film, but just not as good as the first three. So
I don't think I've only seen the first three, I believe.
But yeah, so you're not missing anything there with that. All right, well, now we are down to number 41.
Okay.
Another fun trilogy again, has two more films after it, but neither one really done much. There may be a sixth coming, but for now, at number 41, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah! I can't believe you have that, though, higher than Watchmen. Or you're going to have to, like, give me some reasons to why certain things are ranked where they are, because I like Pirates of the Caribbean. I like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I would have them beneath the Watchmen and beneath the Bourne trilogy.
When I think of the first three Pirates movies, like, they're just a lot of fun. I can watch them nonstop. You know how your dad will usually play the Christmas Story 24 hours on Christmas Day? That's how I'd be with the Pirates movies. I could play them over and over again, not get bored.
Are you sure it's not the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial that you were obsessed with?
Nah, I enjoyed these films long before that shit even took off. Obviously, all three of the first films are great. I'm going to stick with the third one, which is At World's End, which is my favorite of the three. Directed by Gore Verbinski, who did the first two. The cast is Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Jeffrey Rush, who we love a lot, Bill Nye, Tom Hollander is in this one.
I love Orlando Bloom a lot.
Plot is Captain Barbossa, Will Turner, Elizabeth Swann must sail off the edge of the map, navigate treachery and betrayal, find Jack Sparrow, and make their final alliances for one last decisive battle. Now, the great thing about this, and I always forget about it because you just can't see him, but you know by voice that it's him, and that's Davy Jones, and that's Bill Nye. And so, like, every time that I see that his names, I'm like, that's right, that's him. Like, but because he's got the tentacles and all that shit going on, like, you just don't ever see him. But the acting in this is great. A lot of great actors. Jeffrey Rush.
Good.
I've loved Jeffrey Rush since I've seen him in the House of Haunted Hill remake. And he was great in the King's Speech that we saw. And he's a really, really good actor. He plays Barbossa in this, and it's really cool. One of the things I do love about this film is that for characters like Knightley's character or even Barbossa, is that there's like this growth from the film to film. So, what starts out with Keira Knightley being Elizabeth Swann, like, she's kind of like this damsel in distress early in the series, and then she becomes like this leader of the pirates by the third film. So she's, one of the pirate leaders. Of course, it's kind of handed to her by mistake, or not intentionally, but because Chow Yun-fat is also in this film. But the one standout character from this film that I really loved, I just have to give love to is Tom Hollander's character of Beckett, Beckett, because one thing I tend to use,
that was a great scene.
yeah, he's just what his whole thing was like. It's just good business, and so I oftentimes I just whenever I'm making fun of something, I just say that. He's like a clip or a little screenshot of him saying that.
Well, I find these movies incredible because I know you've never been to Disney World, which I just found out, and we've known each other
20 years
since 2002. So 21 years. We met in June of 2002. The man's never been to Disney World.
I've been to well. Here's
You
what
went to
happened with that.
Universal.
Yeah, went to Universal. See, that was the thing. My mom and I went to Florida, and it was either we're going to go to Disney or go to Universal. And I'm like, well, they have the Jaws ride at Universal. That's where I'm going. And then SeaWorld's over there too. So that's what we were doing.
It's a ride. This was a ride that they turned into a blockbuster movie. It's
What, the Pirates?
Yes, the Pirates of the Caribbean are literally like animatronic that you ride through.
No, they still got them, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
I
But
think Johnny Depp showed it one time.
it's amazing, and I remember, you're going through. I think at the end there's like a water slide, but the details, and this is a very old ride. It's not like well, it is high tech, but it's not like, holograms or this is all animatronic. It's all done with,
Well,
clay.
didn't they did the same thing with the Jurassic Park stuff? Like, that's been around for a while too.
Yes, but Jurassic Park was a book that turned into a movie that turned into a ride. This was a ride that they created for Disney World when it was invented. And it's a very popular ride. There's one part where you're like, I remember we all commented on this. You're like kind of going through it, and the pirate is sleeping. Oh, you're I guess it's like a bridge. His leg is dangling, right? And you can see like the leg hair. It's just so detailed. Anyway, Disney took a ride that they have in one of their parks and made it into this huge movie and this huge series. Everybody loves it. And I mean, I'm not disagreeing with this. I just
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think when we get toward the end, I'll explain some of it a little bit more detail. But I think once you see like what my top 10 is, you're probably going to be like, okay, I kind of understand. Because you have to think there's so many movies out there that even if I did a top 100, it'd probably look a little weird because you're like, really? But with 50 movies, that's a lot of movies over a course of 20 years. Yeah. So, and as I said, as I was going through stuff, I'm like, I took things in, took things out. And, so this is what I came up with. Like,
So where was Pirates of the Caribbean on the Hollywood Reporters list? Or was
they didn't have it. In fact, none of the movies I have was on their list.
See, that's really surprising because
the only movie I would say that I can remember offhand, and I can send you the link to the article. The only movie I can think of what I would have put on my list, even though it would have been a runner-up, it probably would have made it, is the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That was one that showed up on their list.
I would have put that in my list. I love that movie. So none of your movies showed up on their list?
Nope.
At all?
Mm-mm. That's what I'm saying. Like they focus so much on stuff like Get Out, which is a good premise by Jordan Peele. But again, it's they were trying to go with this more of like, we're going to be inclusive to certain directors, certain actors, certain sexuality as far as genders. They weren't worried about like how entertaining a film might actually be.
Get Out was okay. As a horror movie, I figured it out like really fast. I said something to you about it. Like,
well, I'm not a big Jordan Peele fan, so it's like he's a very creative director, but like a lot of his films become samey for me. So like I'm kind of like the same themes are running through them. Now we do have, I think, his last one, Nope, is on Amazon Prime right now. So if
Oh, is that the alien one?
I think so. I don't know what it's about, but if you wanted to check that out and review, we can do that. Whatever. But really, they just had a lot of different films that wouldn't make my own list. I was just like, okay. That's why I think it's more accurate to say that their films were more important to this century than actually great, as I would put it, or best of.
And I'm sure somebody else would have said, like, yeah.
There's a movie that I know you really love that's in my list. It's really high. That's not on their list. I'll have to double check, but I'm positive it's not on their list.
One that I really love.
Yes.
Like, really, it's not The Notebook?
No, fuck no. In fact, you probably love this movie more than that. But we'll
What
wait till I
movie
get
is
to
it?
it. I'm not telling you. You'll have to wait.
Silver Linings Playbook?
No.
Oh, I love that movie.
It's not even a rom-com. It's not a rom-com.
No, it kind of is.
No, I'm
Not
saying
a rom-com.
I'm saying the movie that I'm talking about is not a rom-com.
Well, Silver Linings really isn't a rom-com either.
Yeah, it is. It kind of is. I found it funny.
It is a little bit, but it's actually, and
I mean, it's drama too, but I mean,
honestly, like Silver Linings Playbook, it's a book that they turned into a movie, and this is the one time where I'm going to say I like the movie better than the book. The changes that were made.
one day she's going to force me to do like a video on her top 10 rom-coms, and I have to sit through it.
It's a tough one. Top 10.
It's really not going to be as painful as I might think it is, because there are certain movies like The Sweetest Thing that I really like. What is the other one? American Sweethearts is pretty good. But and there's Notebook is a little bit too mushy for me, but Silver Linings is pretty funny. Bradley Cooper is great in that, and Jennifer Lawrence I think is the other one, and that's the one with the De Niro.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
And they had the big bet.
Yeah. So I mean, it's got moments in it, but like those would never make like my own list, because like I won't go back and watch them if I don't have to.
I went hard on Silver Linings Playbook for a while.
Yeah, you did. All right, all. Well, thank you for checking out our first episode. Maybe we'll get to another one next week. I'm not going to rush out and do them, because I know we got other things we got going on. We're going to be going to see Enslaved on Sunday, so we might have some feedback on that. But other than that, thank you for checking out this video. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for us if you don't mind. If you want to leave some comments of what you think, did I rank them too high, too low? What do you think? Or they should even be in my list? You can go ahead and argue with me all you want. I'm not changing my mind.
He loves to argue, so please leave some comments so we can argue with you.
See y'all next time. And we're gonna have probably a couple of trailer reactions before the weekend's out as well. So and tomorrow, for those football fans, Edgar Allan Pollard and I are going to be doing a live coverage of the first round of the NFL draft starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come hang out and chat with us, you can, as we watch and see who's being drafted by the NFL teams.
We need to order wings.
Yeah. So thank you all again. I appreciate the support as always. Keep it metal. And I did put up a top 5 for this week today, so go check that out as well. Some great stuff in there.
This has been fun.
Later.
You see me for